Okay, so today too is another day. We are going to continue whatever we started. All right, we're going to continue. Now, it is very important that whatever that has been discussed, we keep we keep them. We make sure we understand them because day in day out we are just adding on to whatever that we are talking about. We are adding on to. So if you don't understand the previous one, it becomes very difficult for you to what understand whatever we are doing currently. So it is of utmost importance that the very things that we started talking about up until now you understand them. And I believe that is the case for all of us here. I believe that is the case. We understand whatever that we've touched on so far. Okay. And then I'll take this opportunity to also congratulate some of you who have been reaching out when you are faced with difficulties um, and challenges when you don't understand certain concepts and all that. You reach out and then clarifications are given, and I think that is something that is commendable. Keep it up. Keep it up. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can continue learning. So yesterday, this is where we got to. We touched on what syntax is. We look at what statement is, and then when we talk about output, how to actually display something, we saw that. And then we also touched on how to print numbers. We said that for numbers you don't put them in double quotes because the system is able to tell that this is a number and this is not a number. So if you want to deal with numbers like so, you don't have to put them in quotes unless of course you want to treat that number as a string. We also said that dealing with numbers, we can talk about whole numbers, decimal numbers, even numbers, odd numbers, negative numbers. You can actually implement all those in your computer program using C++. So we saw some practical examples here where we have some decimal numbers, so 3.2, 0.3. We have whole numbers in here. You can also have negative numbers and even fractions. So fractions basically would revolve around the decimal numbers. So that is that. We also went ahead to see some important concepts that you need to know. So one, we said that when you want to implement new line, when you want to create lines within your statement and all that, there are a couple of ways you go about that. One way is to use the backward slash n in between your statement. So for instance, we had this string here, and then at the end of the string we introduce this double backward slash n, which means that we are going to have we are going to create new line twice. If you want one, you just take away one and then you have one new line. So this is one way to go about it. Another way is to also go this approach or tangent where you have end L at the end of your statement. This is also going to behave just like this. I also touched on another thing called tabs. We saw that when you print out this code, there is going to be a huge space between this letter A and then the word tab. So we use the backward slash T to create tabs between statements. Okay, so this is where we got to yesterday. We are going to continue to look at some other interesting stuff today. I believe I can continue. There are no challenges, there are no confusion, we can proceed, right? Okay, okay, great, great. Are you seeing my screen? Okay, wonderful, 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 wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all these things here so that we have a very clean space to work with. Now, what I want us to talk about today, the first thing I want us to talk about is comment. So, comment. What are they? What are comments? Now, in your computer program, you are going to have more than one line of code. Sometimes 1,000 lines of codes within a single file, 2,000, 3,000, so many lines of code. When I should open some of the projects I'm working on and you see the number of lines of code I have in there, it is just overwhelming. So what happens is, according to convention, it is just okay that you give comment to certain part of your code. It is just okay that you give certain comment to certain part of your code. What is the reason? It helps to explain that particular line of code, saying that okay, this part here does this thing and this part here does that thing. Now sometimes you could leave your code for months or even years. Now when you come back, there is a tendency you forget what a particular line of code is doing. So when you have comments properly implemented, it is going to serve as a hint. So immediately you see your comments, you're like, oh, okay, this place I was doing this particular thing. So okay, this is what this line of code is doing. Okay, that is fine. So that is one essence of what? Comment. Another is for you to be able to collaborate with other developers easily. So supposing you are working with 1, 2, or 3 other developers. Now you write your code, you push it, or you share it with your other colleagues. If you implement comments properly, they will be able to easily read your code. They wouldn't come back and now be asking you, okay, what were you trying to do on this line of code? What were you trying to do here? With the help of comments, you can avoid such situations. So comments are very, very important. Comments are very important. So in order to implement comments in your computer program using C++, this is how to go about it. So first thing first, you need to also understand that comments are ignored by the compiler. So as of now, when I say compiler, I think we understand what compiler means. Is that a yes? Okay. So when you have comments in your program, it is ignored by the program. It is ignored by the compiler. It is not going to run as part of the codes. So in order to have a comment, you use double / like so. And then now you can say, okay, this function, say this function, let's say help, or is used to check user status. Then now you write the code beneath it like that. So when you come back to this code so many years or months, or you are probably collaborating with other developers, you know that okay, this function that you are implementing somewhere here is used to check what? a user status, whether the user is probably online, inactive, or active, or whatnot, right? Yes, so this is a comment. This is a comment. Now, this is what we call a single line comment. This is what we call a single line comment. It means that we have what types of comment. So we have types of comment, right? We have types of comment. So we can talk about single line comment, single line, and then multi line. So these are the two types of comments we have. Now, a single line comment you can have something like so. So this is what a single line comment, okay? So let's say check if user is 18 years old. So I have what implemented a single line comment here. So beneath this I can say if, so let me define a variable here, say int user age. So if user age is greater or equal to 18, say yes, he or she is above 18. It's qualified. Let me just say qualified, right? Now, so I have used this single line comment to tell that beneath just this comment we're having the snippets of code. So what is it doing? It is basically checking if a user is 18 years old. So this is what a single line comment. Now let's look at multi-line comment. In order to implement a multi-line comment, you do a /, then you bring asterisk, another asterisk, then you hit enter, then you do or you implement another asterisk, and then a /. So inside this is where you implement your multi-line comment. So multi-line means that you can have your comment on multiple lines. You realize that for this one it is just on one line, so when I move to the next line there is no longer a comment. But in a multi-line situation, okay, we can have what, say this is a multi-line comment. It is very helpful if you have let's say you have a long comment. If you want to implement a long comment, yeah, basically, so you realize that I have one line, I have another line, and so we call this thing here a multi-line comment. Have we made sense? Okay. Okay. Beidou, your hands is up. Yes, what's your question, Beidou? What's your question, Beidou? Oh, okay, on the multi-line comment. Okay. Alright. So I would go back to the single line comment. Is it because you don't want to stretch the sentence to the other side of the work area. That is why probably we are using the multi-line. Is that your question? Okay, so yes, now imagine that I want to have this thing continued. Look at this. You see how long this particular part is right now? You see how long it is? You have to now move your editor to the other part for you to see the other part of the comment. And this is not a nice experience. So when you have a very lengthy comments to implement, it is best that you use what a multi-line comment. So in that, you would have what, one line talking about something, another line, so more or less like you have what, a whole paragraph or couple of sentences describing what you want to achieve over there. And I'm saying that for you to implement a multi-line comment, unlike a single line comment where you use double forward slash like so, in a multi-line you bring a forward slash, then you bring an asterisk. You can do one asterisk, but it is okay to bring what, double of the asterisk like so. Then you come and end it with what, two or three asterisks and then a forward slash. So this is the starting of the what, the comment, the multi-line comment, and this is the ending of it. Do you understand up to this point? Do you understand up to this point? Okay, so that is that. So multi-line comments are helpful when you have a very lengthy comment, but single line comment, when you have a very short comment, you go with what, a single line comment. So those are the differences basically. Those are the differences. Okay, so let's continue. So that is about comment. That is about comment. So I'm going to get rid of this things here, and then we can continue to look at other things. Now, where we are going to enter right now, or whatever we are going to start talking about right now, though all the things we've touched on so far are very important, but this is where the real deal starts. Whatever we are going to touch on right now, this is where the real deal starts. So please be very attentive, and then let's flow. So we are going to start to talk about variables. So let me just bring my single line comment and say we want to talk about what, variables. Okay, now when we say something is variable, what does it mean? I want us to understand that literal meaning, and then we can carry that understanding into computer programming. When we say something is variable, what does it mean? I need your inputs, please. A container. Okay, great. It stores data. Okay. Okay, you guys are giving me programming definition, so I've heard you. Okay, in computer programming, a variable is a storage location that holds data. So it's like a container where, let me expand to read whatever you have in here. So it's like what, a container where you can store values that change during the execution of a program. Please don't go and be copying definitions from Google for me. Don't be doing that. If it is coming from your own expression, or that is your understanding too, that is also what, perfect, kudos. But if it is that you are copying something from me, please, this is from it. If you go and even do your research, try to put it in your own understanding, because when I ask you a question and you are not able to, it means you just want to copy it and then dump it like that, which is not the best. Variables is something that can change or varies. Yes. So Ansu Eric, I would I would work with yours because I said I wanted what the literal meaning of variable before we translate to programming. So with your definition, variable is something that can change or varies. Exactly. So when we say variable, in a literal meaning, we say these are how do you call it? Should I say objects? Or they are basically things that have the tendency to change. Now, your date of birth, your date of birth is what? Constant. It is not variable. But your age is variable because your age would continue changing whilst you age, whilst you grow. So your age is what? Variable. It has the probability to change. It's not the probability. It is subject to a change. So anything that is variable, we say that thing has a tendency to a change. So in computer programming, variables are basically containers, and in containers we can put in stuffs or remove stuffs. So it means that we can change the stuffs in a container, or we can decide not to change them. Understood? All right. Now, in computer programming, variables are basically data storage. They are basically what? Containers for what? Information. So when you create a variable in computer programming or in a computer program, you have created a space in a computer's memory to be able to store some information over there, and that information is subject to change. It is what? um it has a tendency to change. Now remember, we said that what is a computer? It is an electronic device that is able to receive input, process the input, and then give us an output. So how do we get the input into the computer? When we feed the computer has to be able to store that information. So some of this information that we give to the computer are stored in the computer's memory. So whatever computer program you are dealing with, they have been structured in a way that when you feed in data, they are stored in either variables or constants, but we will talk about constant later. But more often, they are stored in variables, which create a space in the computer's memory, and then the computer is able to act on those information or data that we feed in. Are we okay? Okay. So now you ask yourself, let's say for instance we want to store the age of a user, or when I say user, probably you might not know who a user is right now. So let's say we want to store the age of your younger brother in a computer program that you are writing. How do you do it? How do you do it? Now you would have to first of all introduce what we call a data type. So data types are basically ways we differentiate the various data or information we are going to receive in our computer program. Now, when you have a data such as your name, right, it is different from your age. So age is what? A number, right? And then your name is what? If age is number, your name is what? I want to get the answer from my audience. Okay, okay. Samuel Esumanata, string, that is correct. Bright Akun, you said character. Okay. Peter Moore, you said string, that is good, that is correct. Words, okay. So yesterday I touched on the fact that, so the one who said character, you are not far from right. But what you need to understand is, I explained this thing yesterday that when you have sequence of characters, that is where we have what? String. So your name is a string, because you can, when you pick your name, you can now decouple all the individual characters in there. So when you're talking about character, that is where you mention the individual characters in your name, but together they are called strings, or it is called what? String. So if your name is string, then your age is what? A number. Okay. So that is that. So now we want to store our younger brother's age. So because age is a number data type, there are ways we mark data which is what? A number. So one way is to what? Use integer. So integer means what? Integer means what? Number. What type of number? Whole number, fractional numbers, or decimal numbers, or what? Positive numbers, whole numbers. Okay. All right. So thank you for that input. Let's continue. Positive and negative whole numbers. Okay, that is great. Okay. Thank you for the feedback. Let's continue. Now, so in C++, for you to tell the system that you want to store an integer data, you use this keyword called what? Int, meaning what? Integer. So when you introduce the data, so this is the data type. So when you do it like so, then you bring a space, then now you specify the name of your variable. So when you have a container in your kitchen, there is a container that stores salt, there is a container that stores sugar. So you are able to determine that this is sugar because there is probably a label on it, or the lid of the sugar is different, the sugar container is different, and the lid of the salt is also different. So you are able to tell the difference. So when you have a variable, you have to give it a name. You have to give the variable a name. Having specified the data type, which is integer, now the next thing is to what? Introduce the name of the variable. So let's say age. And then when you do this, you just what? Bring your semicolon, and then you are done. Any question up to this point? I'm taking my time because these are the very core things you need to understand to build on them and become very good. So if you don't get it, I'm sorry. Alright, great. So that is that. So now we've been able to what? Declare variables. So this is what we call declaration of variables. So that is what I have done. Now, supposing that we want to now store something in this variable, because we said that variables are containers. So if they are containers, it means we are able to keep some stuffs in there. So now we want to now keep age, a value inside this age variable. We want to give a value or store something in this particular age variable that we've declared. So how do we do it? So in order to do that, we say you want to assign value to a variable. So you just do age, then you say equal, then you say maybe 17, and then you bring a semicolon like this. Do we understand? Okay, so the first part, we declare a variable, and this is how to go about it. Now, because we declare a variable, we want to now use the variable. So in order to use it, it means that you have to assign a value. You have to now put something into that variable, and this is how we do it. Now, why is it that you might ask yourself, why is it that this time around we are not bringing the int again? Why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that? Can you hear me? It has already been assigned. No, I don't. It's not that it has already been assigned. You are not far from right. You've already declared a variable to store the data, period. We've already declared it. Yes, that is the correct um, answer. We've already declared it, so now the system knows the variable called age. So when we now call it anywhere in a program, the system knows that we've already declared it, and that is perfect because we already know what we are putting in our container. Kingsley, I would want you to stick with the answer that says that because we've already declared this variable, we wouldn't have to now come again and say int age again. The program is going to yell at us because there is two declarations with the same name, which is not the right thing. Okay. So having done this, we've assigned a value to now the variable age. We've placed something inside this container. So that is how to do it. Now, how do we know that something has been assigned or something has been placed in this container? It is because of this equal sign. It is because of this equal sign. So this equal sign, we call it what? Assignment operator. Please take note. We call it what? Assignment operator. In mathematics, you use this thing to denote equal, but in computer programming, specifically C++ like so, this is not equal. When you want to do equal, you add another to it like so. We will get to some of these things later, but understand that this is what? An assignment. So it picks whatever that is here, which is 17 on your right hand side, and then assign it to what? The age variable here. And that is why we call it what? The assignment operator. Make sense? Okay, great, 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 great. So let's continue. Now we've actually assigned a variable. Created a variable, we've declared a variable, we've assigned what? A value to this variable. So if we want to now display whatever that is contained in this variable, how do we do it? If you want to display whatever value or information or data we have in this variable, how do we do it? We have to go inside and pick it. But how do we pick it? How do we display it? We now have to use, so I'll say display the value of, good. Kennedy is saying C out less than. Please, your less than is 3. That is an error. Yes. So when you do this, we are going to be able to what? Now see whatever that is contained in here. So let me compile and run this project so that, yes, Josephine, someone, that is correct. Moses, that is correct. That is correct. That is correct. So I'm expecting that we see 17 as the what? As the output, and that is exactly what we are seeing. Can you see that? Please, a question. Okay. Yeah. Let's listen to your question. Let's listen to your question. Mm-hmm. Are you now typing it? Okay. If it is very lengthy too, you can just unmute yourself and talk. When you are done, then you mute yourself. Okay. What if there is nothing in the declared variable? Would the output give us an error? Okay. That is a good question and a good observation. Okay. So let's say that we don't assign any value. So let me comment out this and then compile and run again. Let's see what happens. Did you see the output? Yes, we are getting 0. Now, what that basically means is that the system by default is realized, okay, you have declared a variable called age and it is of the type integer. Now, under normal circumstance, this variable should be used. But here's the case, we've not assigned any value to it. So the program, the language C++ is smart enough for us not to have what we call okay, you let me not go there. It is doing what we call garbage collection. So this is garbage. What you've done right now, you've literally just created a space in a computer's memory and you are wasting the space because you are not doing anything with it. You are only printing it. You created a variable. It means that there is something supposed to be assigned or put inside a variable. But here's the case, there is nothing inside of it. You are just printing it. So the program or the C++ is smart enough to collect that garbage by assigning what 0 to it by default so that your program doesn't have issue. Make sense? Okay, great. Someone is also asking that can we have something like so? Yes, this is also valid. This is also valid. But when you do this, there is a name for it. There is a name for it, and that is what we call declaration and initialization. So you declare variable. So this time around I will say int maybe Matthew Weldy, are you now joining? You're asking a question that I've touched on so many times. That was the first thing when we started this particular meeting. That is what I touched on. I explained what comments are, what multi-line comments are. They are not functions. They are just explanations to your code. So when you have a notebook, you realize that when you are copying notes in a classroom, there are certain parts you say, okay, you do a small note on that side, that so that when you come back later and then you are reading that small note that you've given to that particular page, it will give you an insight. Oh, okay, you are trying to understand something here. Do you get a concept? So it is the same idea when what you are doing here with regards to comment. It is the same thing. We are giving certain short notes about the codes that we are writing, and that is going to give us a more understanding to what we are doing. I've also explained the benefit of what comment. So for us to not to go back and then delay time, I would definitely upload this video. Make sure you go and then watch it so that you get the understanding from the beginning. But just know that this is a comment and it's only giving explanation to the blue italics. These ones, these are the comments. So when you introduce the forward slash, and automatically the system knows that you are implementing a comment, so it tries to give it a different look and feel. It tries to give it a different look and feel so that it is not just like the normal code. It is pleasant to the eyes, very pleasant to the eyes. If all of them are one, it will be difficult to differentiate. So the system is smart enough to utilize this one and give it a different color, so you know, okay, this is a comment. All right. Now, can we change a variable value during what? During what? The program. Yes, that is correct. That is why we said earlier that variables are containers and they have the tendency to change. The contents that are in the variables, they have the tendency to change. So later down the line, we are doing something like 17. So when I come here and I say age equals what? 19. Before I print age, look at what happens. Compile and run. We are going to get 19 instead of what? 17. Oh, okay. Great. There is an issue. You see, whenever you run your code and then you experience this sort of line with a very deep red background like so, it means there is an error. But who can tell us what the error is? Quickly. Okay, there is no what? Semicolon. Great observation. So let me just bring that, compile and run again. So we continue. Can you see we are now having 19? Great. So that is what we call that is why we say that variables, they can be changed. Initially we said this thing is 17, but later down the code we change it to what? 19. So when the program is executing, it will start from the top like that. Oh, it got here, you saw that we declared a variable called what? Age. Now it also realized that here we have assigned a value what? 17 to this variable. Now it goes down, it realizes that, oh, okay, though here we assigned 17, here we've also reassigned it by giving the variable what? 19 as a value. So now it replaces the 17 with 19, and when we print, we get 19 instead. So that is how it is happening. Now, someone also said, can we do something like so? So it said int, let's say score, and then we do equals to, and then say 67, and then we do this. And then we do this. This is also valid, but this is also called declaration and initialization. So you declare variable, and then just on the fly you assign a value to it. So there are situations where you would declare a variable and then you give it an initial value. We will see some of those if time permits us in our subsequent meetings. We will see some of those, why sometimes you would have to have what? A default value, and then later down the line you can use your program to change it, or programmatically you can change it however you want to change it to, or whatever you want to do with it, you can do that. All right, so that is that. Let's proceed. So I've talked about declaring variables, that is creating variables, where you would have the type. In this one, for instance, we say int, and then you would also have what? The variable name. So here we had what? Age. So that is that. Now we came here, and then I said to assign value to a variable. So we have what? The variable name, which is age, and then we also have what? The value. So we have what? The assignment operator, which is what? The equal sign. Then we have what? The value. So value, which is what? 17, like that. Okay. All right, so that is that. Let's continue. Now we can have so many other types. We can have so say int, let's say num1. So we have let's say 15. So this is actually integer, right? Whole number without decimals. We can also have double, say float num, let me say num2, which is going to have, let's say 5.4, and this is what? Floating point number, so with what? Decimals. We can also have character, so let's say initials, and I'll just say this is maybe a M. Okay, so this is actually a character data type. We can also have a string, so let's say full name, so let's say Richie Atungo, terminated, and that's what? String. You're laughing, eh? We also have bool, which is representing what? Boolean. So I'll say it's online, and I'll say maybe false. So this is Boolean, represents true or false values. So these are what? Other types that we can have in our computer program. Any question up to this point? Please, what is the difference between double and float? Please, can you assign different variable on the same line? Can you assign different variables on the same line during the declaration and initialization? For example, okay, so you can do something like so. Same line, declaration, so let me say multiple declaration and initialization. So you can do int, maybe age, no, let me say right? Then I can also do score, right? Then I'll do equals, then I'll do this thing, I'll say 34, and then let's say 87, and this is valid. So Samuel Suman Atta, That is your question. It has been answered. So if compile and run is giving us what we just inputted, does run prints from beginning to the end? Kingsley, please, I'm not getting your question. Please come back with your brofo again, okay? Okay. Why do we use num1 and num2? Oh, those are just variable names. Those are just variable names. So I'm just saying number 1, number 2. But I didn't want to type number 1 in full. I didn't want to type number in full, so I just use num short. Does it make sense? Yes. Is it necessary to bring all other types? All other types? No. It depends on what you are doing. That would determine what type you need. If you are filling a form and they are not asking your dad's phone number, are you going to provide it? You are laughing. Yes. So if you want to be a programmer, you want to write computer programs, you don't just stand up and start writing. When you want to even create your own calculator, you have to think through and know that, okay, this calculator that I want to create, this is how I want it to behave. So what are the things that what are the things I need? You don't just stand up and say you're writing calculator. So in as much as we are having these other types here, I'm only telling you that I've touched on integer, but integer is not the only data type we have. We have double, we have character, we have string, we have boolean. So depending on what you are implementing in your computer program will determine whether you want to use double, character, string, or boolean, or integer. There is even float. So someone asked, what is the difference between double and then float? So double has a higher precision numbers compared to float. To bring it to a much simpler terms, double has a higher storage capacity more than float. As simple as that. But there is a more complex definition to that. Just understand it from the basic approach that double has a higher storage capacity compared to what? Float. Period. Do you understand? Alright, great. So that is that. Josephine, you want to say something? Let's hear you. Storage capacity is another thing. You have 64 gig, you have 128 gig. Which one is bigger? Kennedy, 64 gig, 128, which one is bigger? Yeah, so 128. So when I say double is having a higher storage capacity than float, use that understanding to differentiate it, okay? So double here is having a bigger storage capacity compared to what? Float. Period. Can we say float deals in decimal point? Both deals in what? Decimal point. Just that the number of decimals double can take, float cannot take. Float will get to a point and then it can no longer take the decimals again, but double can take more than float can take. So understand it like that, okay? Okay. So so how we print out everything we have so how we print Kingsley are saying, so how do we print out everything we have inputted so far? Is that what you are trying to ask, Kennedy? Kingsley. Kingsley, is that your question? Are you trying to ask how do we oh, okay. It means you are now joining, or probably you are lost or something. We've displayed so many things. We've print out so many things. So use that knowledge. Unless you are telling me you are now joining, because I have what? Int number 1 here, which is having the value 15. If I want to display it, I'll just do what? C out. Then I'll say number 1. And then I'll do this. And this is going to print whatever that is inside this number 1. This is how to do it. Unless you are telling me you are now joining. Okay. So Kingsley, come back again. If you understood what I said, come. Let me know. If you don't understand, it means that you tell us why you are lost or something. Yes, Kennedy. Let's hear from you. What's up?
Please, about the question he asked, that what if you want to display all that we've inputted?
Mhm.
You see, just type them, see out less than number one, and that would have to go to the next line. I wanted to know if after the number one and we want to display the next one, can we put a comma after the number one, then put number two, then comma, then initials, then comma, then full name, then comma,
Okay,
then it's
okay,
online.
okay,
Then
okay,
we do the
okay. I get
semicolon.
you. I get you. Is that what Kingsley was trying to ask? Kingsley, I said you should come back and then let me know if you understand what I said. Okay, that wasn't your question. So the explanation I gave, you understood it. The explanation I gave, you understood it. Yes, Kingsley, speak. I'm listening.
So
Speak louder. Speak
I was only
louder.
asking. So I was only asking. You see, we started typing from line one,
Uh huh.
from above
Uh huh.
line one. So I wanted to ask how we print everything from line one to the line that we are now.
Okay. So, um, you as a person, okay, you have your head, you have your arms, you have your legs, your eyes are there. When you decide to walk right now, are all those parts moving?
No, sir.
They are not. They are not moving. Are you sure? Hey, who is laughing? Please be careful. When we start to move, all those parts are actually in motion. But what happens is the other parts are there to make sure that there is a full working person. If your eyes are not there, you now fumble to walk. You now find it difficult to what? To walk. If your arms are not there, you can imagine how you'll be able to hold things when you're walking, or if you want to greet someone, how you'll be able to do it. Now, even if your arms are not there and you're walking, your body feels like, I don't know how it is though, but I think you feel incomplete. So if you would kind of put yourself um, in our friends who, like, by whatever reason are incapacitated, you can imagine how they feel. Yes, there will be imbalance. Correct. Good for that. Um, good. There will be imbalance. There will be imbalance. So all these things are there to make sure that even if you are only saying that, even if you are only saying that, see out, hello, this is the only thing you are doing, all these ones are there to make sure that this thing runs successfully. Make sense? Great. So the one who asked the question, who was that?
Yes, I'm following.
Yes, Kingsley. So are you now okay?
Yes, please.
Great. So in the absence of this part, this code, this CL thing can never run. It will not work. So understand it like that. So what happens is, immediately you do all this thing and you run your code, the system is going to check. The language is going to check. Do we have this one in place? Is your head there? Is your legs there? Um, are your eyes in place? Before it come to, okay, now you can move it. You can move your leg because your leg is there. You can now move it. Are we okay? All right, so that is that that is that. So let me just comment out this for now. Oh, I'm commenting the wrong part. Okay, so that is that. I'm not getting it. Okay, that is fine. Like walking without your eyes. Okay, that is fine. Great. Please, see always that comments come before code. Okay, so let's say no, let me not use this. Let's say string user name. Let's say the one who asked the question, Josephine underscore 123. That is your username, and then you come and say username. How will you read this thing? How will you read it, Josephine?
Okay, it will be a bit difficult.
Why are you guys laughing? Josephine, let's listen to you. How will you interpret what is happening?
String username
Mm-hmm.
equals Josephine underscore 23 username.
Mm-hmm. Is that all? So it is so mute yourself, okay? Mute yourself. All right. So it is very important that you bring the comments before the line of code, and that makes it much readable, like so. So this is the correct way to go about it. So when I say this, oh okay, it means that below this is actually what saying okay the username basically, or let's say store username. All right, so that is that. Let me touch on other questions. Please, sir, my question hasn't been answered. Kennedy, what's your question?
Please, I asked about let's say we have a sequence of declared stuff, declared
Mm-hmm.
variables, and now we want to print them, but we can't
Yes,
give
yes,
each
yes,
of
yes,
them
yes, yes. I
empty
remember
out.
now. I remember now. So let me touch on that quickly. So in this context, let me try using. So I was trying to do this thing and then. So you can do this. Number two. When you do this, the system is not going to allow you. So what you can do instead is to have something like so. And this is going to work. Make sense? Yeah. So if you want to change the other ones, you can do it. Let's say full name. It will work. Um, let's say initials. This one will work. But if you print it out and then all of them are just combined, then you can now do something like so. So after number one, you want to introduce this, right? So you can do um, another less than, then in between you just introduce this empty quote, then you bring a space, you make sure there is a space, before this. You get it? So now when you print it, there will be space in between them like that. Okay, great. So that is that. Now I wanted to touch on something quickly before we call it a day. That is, let's say you have adding of variables together. So let's say you have int first number equal to 10, int second number equals to, let's say, 16. So you can actually do int result equal to first number plus what? Second number. What I've done, is it self-explanatory or it is confusing? Self-explanatory. Good. So if you want to add variables, that is how to do it. So you have your first variable, which is having the value 10, and then the second one 16. Now we want to have the computation of these two and then store it inside result. Sometimes if you don't want to do that, you can just go ahead and say cout, then you say first number plus what? Second number. It means that you don't have to store the result in another variable, and this is going to work fine. But there are reasons why sometimes you would have to store the output in another variable, and you can use that variable to do other things. So know the difference. Okay. Alright, so that is there. Now the next thing, okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is multiple variables, but someone made me do that already, and this is it. So this is what multiple variables. This is what we call multiple variable declarations. Okay. Now, one thing you have to note about the multiple declaration is that you can't have different data types declared and assigned like so. This is not going to work. But because this is an integer data type, this is also an integer data type, when I do this, it is valid. Are we okay? Alright. So if for instance I do this thing, let's say string, this is not going to work. It is not going to work. Alright. Alright, so we would end here, and then we can continue hopefully tomorrow, because time has been fast spent already. We will continue tomorrow to look at more interesting concepts. I only hope that whatever we've touched on this evening has been so impactful, well understood, and then you are going to practice on your own, because that is the only way to augment whatever knowledge we are impacting into your heads. That is the only way. If you don't practice, you come back and then we do something, it feels like we are building rocket science, which is something not encouraging, or let's say something that we wouldn't want to encourage. Please practice. Okay. God richly bless you. Amen. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well understood. That is fine. Good to know you understood everything. Your time is much appreciated. God bless. Amen. closing prayer by the developer, you Matse. Um, I'm still the number one, Admiral Kennedy. Thank you for that one. The last time I told you to reach out, you never reached out to me. Sir, can't you give us an assignment for us, like writing a code based on today's lesson? So yes, I would ask Hello to do that, or I'll do that myself and then ask Hello to how do you call it, administer the assignments to you guys. I'll do that. Okay, God bless you for such an amazing lesson. Amen. I'm grateful to you. Alright, so I think we would call it a day. Hello. If you have something to say, you do that.
Sorry, Palu has to continue from here.
I should leave you guys then. Okay, okay. So
Yes,
Hello will do
yes.
the closing prayer. So I'm exiting.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
can. Welcome.